This is going to be the most important video you'll ever watch in your entire life. So comment, like, and share the hell out of this video. Thomas Edison said, the doctor of the future will educate the patient on the human frame, nutrition, and prevention of disease. What that means is we don't need to look necessarily at waiting until we get sick to take action on our health. We need to be proactive, and we need to understand the universe and how the flow of electrons move through our bodies and what disease is telling us. Basically, I want to take this back through evolution. 4.5 billion years ago, there was this protein called ceruloplasmin. And this protein is crucial in explaining how our environment that used to use hydrogen to make energy started to be able to use oxygen. And now this thing aerobic respiration is we take in oxygen and it converts to CO2 and water. But back then it was hydrogen. Now the ceruloplasmin, which takes your copper and binds it to iron to make hemoglobin. And remember, hemoglobin is what oxygenates our cells. So life began to evolve, and evolved in the form of chlorophyll, which utilizes oxygen, and hemoglobin. The only difference between us and plants is its center core. It's all comprised of carbon, but its center in a plant is magnesium, and in us, our blood is hemoglobin, which is iron at its core. I want you guys to understand what aerobic respiration is and the flow of electrons and all the lifestyle factors that contribute to the loss of flow of electrons that lead to chronic illness. It's not just the food you eat. You know, we got doctors that specialize in psychology, doctors that specialize in nutrition. You name it, there's a doctor out there for it. They're focused on that one thing. But little do they put the pieces together. And that's what I want to do. I want to make this integrative. It's the water, the food, the rest, the exercise, the mind, the environment, and your posture. Those 7 factors are what lead to the breaks in aerobic respiration. I'm going to cover those more as I go on here. But for now, just realize it is your lifestyle factors. It is not your genes. What's great is you can change it through your perception. So what I want to do here is I want to break down what aerobic respiration is. It's redox. Oxygen has to convert into superoxide. In order to take that superoxide and convert that into hydrogen peroxide, we need nitric oxide and we need superoxide dismutase. Those are antioxidants, and our bodies make those, but we need the cofactors. So you need amino acids and you need minerals. Those are your cofactors to make that. We get our amino acids from protein sources. Vegetarian sources, you can get them. You can supplement with some amino acids possibly that you might be deficient in. But generally the best place to get those amino acids are going to be from your ruminant animals. And if you get the proper sunlight, calcium is activated. It makes HCl in the parietal cells of the stomach. And that takes sunlight to activate the ATPase enzyme. Now that superoxide has to convert into H2O2 because we had enough nitric oxide and enough SOD. But let's just say we didn't have that, right? Now what we're going to get is peroxynitrate. It's ONOO, because you didn't get the amino acids. You didn't make enough nitric oxide. You don't make enough SOD. So what can we do to help combat that? Well, this comes from 2 things. Protein degradation, or it comes from fatty acid peroxidation. One of those 2 things. And then we form this peroxynitrate, leads to heart disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, and cancer. So vitamin C is extremely beneficial in this process. We can help mitigate the stress if we didn't make enough SOD or nitric oxide to form that H2O2. I want you guys to realize the goal is not to need more vitamin C and not to need more vitamin E. It's to make this process happen because you had enough nitric oxide and SOD in the beginning of that cycle. We don't need to take the vitamin C and vitamin E in excess because we're not making the peroxynitrate. We convert into H2O2, right? That's hydrogen peroxide. Now, in order for that process to work smooth, we need enough catalase, okay? We need minerals for catalase, and we need sunlight for catalase. Sunlight brings red blood cells to the surface of the skin, and when we bring red blood cells to the surface of the skin, with that comes catalase. So now, that catalase converts our hydrogen peroxide into CO2 and water, right? That makes the exclusion zone water as deuterium depleted water, which holds the energy. And that's what moves the electrons. That's what helps you detox. It takes your poisons and toxins and converts them into water-soluble product. That's why I say ignite the energy and ignore the enemy. You can run yourself crazy and think about all the different problems of plastics in the environment, the lead, the mercury, or we can activate cytochrome oxidase and exclusion zone water to turn those poisons and toxins into water-soluble products. Our livers and our kidneys can get rid of them. That's the process that you want. Now, let's just say that you didn't make enough catalase, and now we're going to make this thing called a hydroxyl radical. And this is where the iron comes into play, and it's the Fenton reaction. That's where iron oxidizes. Now, if we make too many hydroxyl radicals, we can take hydrogen pills or hydrogen water bottles. Everyone's drinking the hydrogen water. That's because they have too much Fenton reaction. We're not making enough catalase. We're not getting enough UVA light. All you gotta do is go outside and get connected with nature. Now we bring more catalase, we don't make as many hydroxyl radicals, and you feel good and health is restored. Let's just say that we didn't get enough catalase, we didn't get out in the sun enough. Well, now we gotta make glutathione. Glutathione is a liver antioxidant that's helpful. It helps turn those poisons and toxins into water-soluble product too. What do we need to make glutathione? Again, amino acids, cysteine, lysine, and glutamine. And then it converts everything into water. So we get those and we mix that with sulforaphane. Sulforaphane that's really found in broccoli sprouts is probably your best source. It's gonna help you make more of that. If you have too many hydroxyl radicals, then you have a Fenton reaction occurring and your iron levels are high. Now, the general thing that we see is that when you're low in iron, they wanna give you iron. That's the worst thing you can do. You need to get your copper to bind to iron. So you need to look at your ceruloplasmin. Remember what I said about ceruloplasmin? So you need copper and you need sunlight in order for your copper to bind to iron with that ceruloplasmin. It has to be activated. And you end up taking iron and pushing the Fenton reaction to make more hydroxyl radicals. Remember, that process disrupted and our enemies, superoxide, hydrogen peroxide, peroxynitrate, hydroxyl radicals. Those are the bad guys. Nitric oxide, superoxide dismutase, catalase, glutathione. Those are our good guys. They balance each other out. They all need to happen. Not one's really good or bad. It just has to be a smooth process. And if redox is disrupted, we make free radicals and we wind up with chronic illness. A lot of you guys are focused on the genes. Remember, genes are the gun, but environment was a trigger. If that process is disrupted, gene expression happens. And the genes are the thing that tells you what illness you're susceptible to if you have the break in aerobic respiration. So fix this process. So sex hormones. Everyone's like, oh, I need to be on hormone replacement. Or do you? Do you truthfully need to be on hormone replacement? Guess what? Aerobic respiration is disrupted. What ends up happening here is you got epinephrine. Your body's stressed. So the epinephrine has to convert to cortisol. So now your cortisol is elevated. Everybody knows cortisol is the bad hormone. Right? But is it? Because it mobilizes triglycerides to be burned as body fat. It just can't be elevated all the time. It also has to be high to stimulate you and wake you up. So it has to be in check. You can't have it elevated all the time. So now you have epinephrine and it causes high cortisol. That catecholamine contracts our blood vessels. It creates high blood pressure. It causes dyslipidemia. It causes a lot of those things. All because aerobic respiration is disrupted. But then it increases histamine. It increases serotonin. Serotonin creates neurodegenerative diseases when it's elevated excessively because you had too much cortisol because you broke aerobic respiration. And you got high histamine. Histamine signals zonulin in your gut. Zonulin regulates your interstitial space between the cells in the gut, opens up, makes it permeable. Now proteins leak out and it stimulates an immune reaction, and you wonder why you have autoimmune things like Hashimoto's, Sjogren's, type 1 diabetes. Those are all autoimmune. Lower your cortisol, fix aerobic respiration. Guess what? Histamine gets under control. The junctions in the gut get better. So now we got those two things. Well, with high serotonin and high histamine, you also got high estrogen, prolactin, and lactate. Well, we don't want high estrogen levels. And if that's elevated, we lower our metabolism because electrons aren't moving. The body's trying to save you from using hydrogen for fuel because it wants to use oxygen, right? Glucose works with oxygen to make energy most efficient. So keto's not a good solution, let me tell you that. Neither is carnivore. It's not a good solution. Your brain functions best on glucose. It will break down muscle tissue. And 100% will break down muscle tissue to make the glucose because you don't get it. And that's called gluconeogenesis. And that process is because you elevated glucagon and your body's trying to save you to make the glucose. And it lowers T3 because it's stressful. So now we lower T3 and our metabolism is slower because you chose to do keto and carnivore. Well, guess what? When T3 is low, T3 has to convert into DHEA and testosterone in the liver. So now our sex hormones are low, but you think you need hormone replacement. Well, you need cholesterol, you need sunlight, and acetyl-coenzyme A that comes from the Krebs cycle, which is part of this aerobic respiration, feeds into that. So that's how that process functions. Everything matters: water, food, rest, exercise, mind, environment, posture. Those are the 7 basics. And those 7 basics I want to cover. Water. What kind of water should you drink? Probably the best water you're gonna find. You're gonna have to put minerals back in it. You probably reverse osmosis, water filters that do that. Whole house reverse osmosis. Why do you want to do whole house reverse osmosis? Because there's chlorine, there's fluoride, there's heavy metals, there's microbial cysts, there's plastics, right? What does fluorine do? Which is the same thing as fluoride? Destroys the superoxide pulse. That process doesn't happen. You don't make carbon dioxide in the end, and redox is destroyed. So you want to drink water. You want to drink reverse osmosis water and find a system that adds the minerals back in. I use Crystal Quest. It's on my website in my shop. If you want it easy, it's right there. It's not that expensive. Food. What is it that you really should be focused on, right? And I'm going to go through some rules here so I make it easy for you. Rule number 1, polyunsaturated fatty acids. That is your seed oils and your chicken and your turkey and your fish, right? Omega-3s are a myth. Don't consume omega-3s. They lack hydrogen bonds. All polyunsaturated fatty acids lack hydrogen, and they are not stable. They oxidize under light, and light is crucial for your health. It moves electrons. So when we consume PUFAs, it's problematic, but guess what? They're not really problematic. They're only problematic because PUFAs are the fire, but iron is the match. So the whole ceruloplasmin thing goes back to that. And your copper can't bind your iron, you have the Fenton reaction occurring, and the PUFAs oxidized, and now you end up with heart disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, and cancer. You gotta make sure you're getting enough copper and sunlight in your life. But I just eliminate them. I keep them at a minimum, and I want saturated fat. I want ruminant animals. Animals that eat seeds and grains that convert them to stearic acid. You can't do that. You're monostomach. Collagen. I would add collagen to my diet. Proline and glycine. Lowers epinephrine. So I'm gonna make sure it's your collagen. Eat your organ meat. It's disgusting. Get over it. Eat it. 1 ounce a day is all you need. Liver, heart, kidneys, that's what you need. And that's because it contains retinol form of vitamin A. And that retinol form of vitamin A is the only source you can get it from is from organ meat. You're not gonna get it from anywhere else. You know, beta carotene from vegetables isn't gonna convert to vitamin A, or carrots isn't gonna convert to retinol forms of vitamin A. And so then we end up with that Fenton reaction, hydroxyradicals, and illness. So we need to have, and we also gonna get copper from there if there's enough in the soil that the animal's eating. So the organ meat is a crucial thing. We want to make sure that we're consuming enough glucose. We need to lower the inflammation. We lower the inflammation, we improve glycolysis and glucose metabolism, and sugar lowers cortisol more. That's what sugar does. It lowers cortisol. And number of calories you eat matters. Some people's metabolic rates are slow. We got to slowly ramp their calories up so they can handle more. Calories are just as important as a type of food. You can't just eat all healthy food and expect you're going to lose weight. Rest. We need to sleep. Most people aren't sleeping. They're staying up late on their devices, getting all that artificial blue light. The reason you want to go to bed on time, like clockwork, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at least. When we do that, we get into REM sleep. And then our cerebrospinal fluid moves. And the cerebrospinal fluid is that Kundalini energy. It's that mystical thing. It's not really mystical. It's just the electrons moving up the cerebrospinal fluid, washing over the pineal gland, the thing that gives you intuition, helps you rest and feel repaired. And then there's the lymphatic system, where actually our cerebrospinal fluid doesn't stay in the spinal column, it moves out through our whole entire body. Are you kidding me? They're just discovering this? We knew this long time ago. Lymphatic system, yeah. Okay, big deal. It exists. It's your cerebrospinal fluid. It has to move. It has to wash over your brain, right? That's how you stay alert. That's how you have intuition. So, exercise. You have to move every day. At least walk. Probably 20, 30 minutes every single day. Lift some weights. Increase your bone density, increase your muscle mass. You gotta do some of that. You don't have to go overboard. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. You have to have big muscles like what I've done in my life. So we wanna find that balance. It's there. It's gonna improve your blood glucose. It's gonna improve aerobic respiration, your ability to utilize energy. When you work out, you lift weights, GLUT4 receptors are activated. You don't even need insulin to utilize glucose. Your muscles just suck it up. Now we have our mind. This is one of my favorite components because everyone overlooks it. And your mind produces scalar waves that move longitudinally while the Earth's magnetosphere produces north and south. Your mind, through those scalar waves, is creating a wave in physics into the universe, into the Akashic records. And that's a frequency. That's your DNA. This is how your thoughts actually become expressed genes. But our DNA is an antenna. And then that energy goes into our cell, which is a capacitor. That goes into the mitochondria, it's the engine. And then the engine drives those electrons through the electron transport chain. When that energy becomes stagnant, the Merkaba misdirects that energy, because it's a resistor, and directs that traffic of energy to create symptoms in your body. Your physiology and what you eat affects the way you think, and the way you think affects your physiology. It goes both directions. Everything matters. So you gotta use your intuition. That's why you need that sleep to wash over that pineal gland. So disease happens for a reason. It's happening for you, not to you. What you think and how you feel influences the water that controls cell potentiation. You create these things. Okay, environment. We got lighting and electromagnetic fields. You need to get outside. I think everybody needs a minimum of 3 hours of sunlight. Infrared light, what it does is it takes our hydrogen peroxide and converts it into CO2 and water. Taking your fat, or taking toxins and poisons and converting to water-soluble product that the kidney and liver can get rid of. Thank God for the sun. The protonic energy of the sun moves electrons through the electron transport chain. So we also need UVA light. What does UVA light do? It performs sulfation. Hydrogen sulfate to sulfate. If we can't perform that process, bacteria, yeast, fungus, and mold grow, right? Don't be an idiot. Just go straight out and get UVA light at solar noon for 3 hours. Yeah, you're gonna burn. But get your infrared light in the morning. Build your melanocytes. Once you build your melanocytes, then you can start to handle more UVA. You need to live outdoors. You need to live in equatorial light, more outdoors. Lowers your blood glucose. That's what sunlight does. Get the right type of light. Stop with the artificial light. Stop using the blue light and get rid of the electromagnetic fields out of your house and you won't. Posture. I get it. There's lots of people doing posture stuff and exercises, but you cannot stretch your way, you cannot exercise your way into correcting your posture. When nerves are stretched, they lose function. It's like the TV's not plugged in. When the TV's not plugged in, electrons don't move, right? It's stretched. So a stretched spinal cord, because your body slumps, causes electrons not to move. Scoliosis, lordosis, all those posture distortions are limiting the flow of energy. And so when our posture is bad, and the nerve is stretched, Alfred Bragg was going in there and he was cutting the spinal cord. And when he cut the spinal cord, elongated it, and all of a sudden, the patient's pain went away. Then came along Yamada Lee, and what Lee was doing was studying the electrical impulses. And he discovered that when we stretch nerves, they lose function. Well, what happens is the bone goes anterior, bone goes forward, like this. Okay? Muscles aren't back here. Muscles can't pull it back. Those muscles can only compress and rotate. So what happens then is it tips forward and the nerve gets stretched. Muscles can't pull it back and it stays there and it rubs, shifts, and moves. You get calluses on the spinal cord. And when those calluses develop on your spinal cord, you get symptoms because the electrons can't move. Because now you're stuck like this and the electron doesn't move and you get reductive stress and don't make CO2. And you end up making all those free radicals. So I want you to stick to everything natural as possible. I get it, we live in a world that needs some change, but I promise you it is healing and it starts within you. This is what I want you to get from all of this. I want you to understand how freaking powerful you are. There's 30 million trillions of electricity in your cells. Money, love, and health are at your fingertips. They're right here, right at your fingertips. Follow aerobic respiration, the flow of electrons. Energy and motion stays in motion. Emotion is change, change is the essence of life. If you resist the flow of life, you die.